Now, there's some principles even in the study materials that could be helpful. Something as simple as the PREMAC principle. If you're not familiar with PREMAC, PREMAC just says this. If you're going to do a less likely behavior, well, studying for the EPPP could be a less likely behavior. Reinforce it with a more likely behavior, meaning if I encourage you to study 14 hours a week, at the end of that 14 hours, reward yourself. I would develop some self-care, some style of making sure that you're taking care of yourself, how you're thinking about the exam. All of us are very familiar with cognitive behavioral aspects, and Dr. Beck would encourage all of us not to do a number of things, including not to magnify. And so, if you fail this exam and you live in New York City, and it's not now that every plane that lands at JFK says, and this is the home of Dr. Mike Kerner, who is 17 points short on his EPPP. In other words, sometimes we are absolutely making this too much. At the same time, in all respect to every single colleague watching us right now, it is a very important exam, absolutely. So many of us are deferring full employment, or many of us are even waiting to start families or other aspects of our life until we get through this thing. So both things are true, but self-care, I think, is really important, and finding some strategies to take care of yourself and how you think about this exam, to me, is remarkably important. And realizing this test is not a measure of you as a psychotherapist. Now, earlier I said something that I'd like to come back to. I said this test has some important stuff too. So what's that? Well, the analogy I think I'd like to make is the bar. There's a pretty tough exam that lawyers have to take after they do their 3 years of law school.
That's right.
And we all know the bar. And I think we would all think, tough exam. It doesn't matter what state you take it in. Now, let's say they got rid of that exam, and all you had to do is go to classes to become a lawyer. I want you to know, Scott, sitting here right now, I would be a lawyer. I would take some of those night classes so I could say I'm a clinical psychologist and a lawyer. Why? Because I think I would like the added title and value professionally to have that label as a forensic psychologist, but probably that bar keeps me thinking, maybe not. Maybe I'll focus on other things. Now, when I bring that to psychology, if we didn't have this psychology exam, every mental health professional in the universe would be a psychologist. Well, why not? If all it is a matter of education and taking a series of classes. So I feel like the exam protects the profession in some ways, and it has to. And it creates a cork. It does create some neurotic struggles for many of us, also true. But I think that I would like to say something that is at the risk of sounding very Pollyannish. And that risk is, I think people have to befriend this process. I think that you have to engage in this process in a way that is not a toxic experience. I think if you have to retake this test, or if you're taking this test for the first time, you have to find within yourself the passion that brought almost every one of us into this field. In other words, there are so many aspects of psychology that I still find myself very enthralled with. And I think most colleagues came into this profession because there are aspects of this work, of this profession, that you can't do with other job titles. You need to not let that passion get too far because of the difficulty of this exam process, and you need to find time to study, make that time your own, enjoy that time, make it comfortable, even facing your greatest fear. So many colleagues, might be stats as an example, statistics. The enthusiastic part, I would say, of facing our weakest area, our inferior function, if you will allow, is it feels good to be able to get to some kind of at least average level of what a clinical psychologist is expected of, even in those weak areas, and it is absolutely doable. And when you look at the number of folks who are sitting in this country, or Canada, as I speak, who have used our materials to pass the exam, it's hard to get an exact number, but it's upwards of 16,000. And somewhere here I wrote down a more exacting number. So if people allow that the number is over 16,000, there are That is to say, all of us have approached this test with a lot of anxiety, and we need to find some self-study skills and strategies to take care of ourselves. We need to organize ourselves. I think that helps reduce our anxiety.
Right.
And we need to think about this exam in a way that is not toxic. You don't want to spend 300 hours of your life or more just dreading and negative and toxic about this process. So I would really encourage folks to come back and kind of find that passion in psychology, try to enjoy the study, try to enjoy becoming smarter in some of these areas that are less your area, and I hope you will, in fact, use the workshop as a tool to reduce anxiety. I think coming to an intensive 32-hour overplaying of the very common concepts in the field of psychology and the EPPP can absolutely help reduce your anxiety, and so that is another strategy that I'd like to throw out.
Well, I certainly know from our experience, and I recall a study we did several years ago where we were able to, I believe this was before the exam went computerized, but I remember how we were able to look at the number of applicants over a 12-month period. We could look at the average raw score nationally. We looked at the average raw score of our home study customers, which was significantly higher than the average raw score. And then we looked at the average raw score of our home study and workshop people combined. And the increase in scores, that average, was significant. The 4-day workshop is clearly an opportunity for you to not only learn to master the key concepts and theories that are likely to be covered on the exam, which is all available to you when you visit the exam website. We've obviously done the homework for you. We have gone through all the research material, and that is why we revise and update our home study programs to sometimes 3 times a year. And we add new mock exam items into our test bank constantly. We have helped tens of thousands of people every single year for many years. And I have to say, Mike, you're not only an exceptional instructor, but I like the fact that you get such amazing feedback that is sent to our office with respect to your way of conveying knowledge, and I appreciate that very much. If our viewers have any questions about the EPPP or the Association for Advanced Training, we invite you to visit us on the web at AATBS.com or call us at 800-472-1931. And I encourage you to call us if you just want to learn more about the test. You don't need to purchase anything. You can just call and learn more about the test and how we have helped so many people pass the exam, including this gentleman here, Dr. Michael Kerner. Thank you very much.